For centuries, the Shroud of Turin has become one of the most mysterious and controversial pieces of cloth on the face of the planet.
Over the centuries, people have debated, studied, and even argued about the true origins of this mysterious cloth. But what makes it even more interesting? The way it connects to key moments in the Bible, from Jesus' crucifixion and burial to his resurrection. Could the shroud actually hold clues to these biblical events? Today, we're going to break it all down for you. So, stay tuned. Let's take a moment to understand why the Shroud of Turin has captured so much attention over the years. The shroud is a long piece of linen cloth, and it's claimed to be the burial shroud of Jesus Christ. What makes it special is the faint image of a man that appears on the fabric. This image seems to show a man who has wounds that match the kind of injuries someone might have had if they were crucified, which makes many people believe it could be the actual cloth used to wrap Jesus after his crucifixion. Now, here's where things get interesting. In 1988, scientists performed carbon dating on the shroud to determine its age. The results showed that the shroud was from the Middle Ages, between 1260 and 1390 AD, which suggested that it was likely a fake. This led to a lot of controversy, as people who believed the shroud was real weren't ready to accept that result. Many argued that the testing process might have been flawed, especially since the samples for testing were taken from a part of the cloth that may have been repaired in later centuries. Over the years, more tests and analyses have been conducted, but the debate has never been fully settled. Some scientists say it's a brilliant medieval forgery, while others claim it's authentic. And now, in 2024, a new study has added more fuel to the fire, suggesting that the original carbon dating might have been wrong, and the shroud could actually be much older than we thought. This study was led by Robert Rucker, a nuclear engineer with a deep interest in the Shroud of Turin. Rucker and his team used advanced scientific techniques that go way beyond what was available in the 1980s when the shroud was last carbon dated. Instead of relying on traditional carbon dating, Rucker's team used techniques like X-ray analysis and neutron absorption testing. These are more advanced tools that help scientists get a more accurate understanding of the shroud's material. Here's what makes it exciting. The results suggest that the shroud may actually date back to the 1st century, which is around the time when Jesus would have lived. This lines up with what many people who believe in the shroud have long thought, that it really could be the burial cloth of Christ. One of the key findings of the study is the idea that neutron radiation may have been absorbed by the shroud during a significant event, possibly even during the resurrection itself. This radiation could have skewed the results of the 1988 carbon dating, leading scientists back then to think the shroud was younger than it really is. This new study doesn't just challenge the old carbon dating, it also opens up new avenues for research. Could this neutron radiation be the reason why the shroud has an image of a man on it? And if so, what caused the radiation in the first place? These are some of the questions that researchers are now exploring. The findings from the 2024 study are significant because they not only reignite the debate about the Shroud of Turin's authenticity, but also introduce some fascinating scientific possibilities. For those who believe the shroud is the actual burial cloth of Jesus Christ, this study provides a kind of validation. The idea that the shroud could be from the 1st century, and that its previous carbon dating was flawed, is exactly the kind of evidence believers have been waiting for. But for the scientific community, these findings raise more questions than answers. If neutron radiation was absorbed by the shroud, what caused it? Could it really have been the resurrection? And if that's the case, how do scientists even begin to study such a unique and miraculous event? The implications go beyond just religious belief and touch on areas of physics and radiation that have only been lightly explored in this context. Robert Rucker, the lead researcher behind the study, has stated that he believes the new data strongly challenges the 1988 carbon dating results. He's confident that the neutron radiation absorbed by the shroud caused the earlier tests to be inaccurate. According to Rucker, this new study provides evidence that the shroud could be much older than previously thought, possibly dating back to the 1st century. On the other side, many scientists are taking a more cautious approach. While the new findings are intriguing, some experts argue that more research is needed before we can say for sure that the shroud is as old as the new tests suggest. After all, the shroud has been the subject of intense debate for centuries, and it's unlikely that one study will settle the argument once and for all. Public reactions have been just as mixed. On social media, some people are excited about the possibility that the shroud could be real, while others remain skeptical. Religious figures have also weighed in, with some saying that the new findings support their belief in the shroud's authenticity, while others are urging caution, pointing out that science and faith often take different paths when it comes to ancient relics. Let's dive into how the Shroud of Turin is significant in the Bible, and how this ancient piece of cloth connects to biblical events and teachings. To understand the possible significance of the Shroud of Turin in the Bible, we first need to look at the story of Jesus' burial, as told in the Gospels. After Jesus was crucified, the Bible tells us that his body was taken down from the cross and prepared for burial. In the Gospel of Matthew 27:59-60, it says, "And Joseph took the body and wrapped it in a clean linen cloth and laid it in his own new tomb, which he had cut in the rock." Similarly, the Gospel of Mark 15:46 gives a similar account. "So Joseph bought some linen cloth, took down the body, wrapped it in the linen, and placed it in a tomb cut out of rock." In both these accounts, we see a specific mention of Jesus' body being wrapped in a linen cloth. The Gospel of Luke 23:53 also mentions that Jesus' body was wrapped in linen. This linen burial cloth is central to the connection between the Shroud of Turin and the Bible. The shroud is believed by some to be the very cloth that wrapped Jesus' body after his death, making it an important physical link to the events described in the Bible. One of the most mysterious aspects of the Shroud of Turin is the image of a man that appears on the cloth. The figure seems to show the outline of a man who has suffered injuries consistent with crucifixion, wounds on the hands, feet, and side, as well as marks that suggest a crown of thorns. This imagery immediately brings to mind the suffering of Jesus, as described in the Bible. In the Gospel of John 19:34, we read about how one of the Roman soldiers pierced Jesus' side with a spear, confirming his death. The image on the shroud shows a wound in the side that aligns with this description. Additionally, the marks on the head resemble what might be caused by a crown of thorns, which is mentioned in Matthew 27:29, and then twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on his head. These parallels between the image on the shroud and the injuries described in the Bible have led many to believe that the shroud could be the actual burial cloth of Jesus. While there's no definitive proof, the alignment of the image with biblical descriptions is enough to stir the imagination of many believers. One of the most important events in Christianity is the resurrection of Jesus, and some people believe that the Shroud of Turin might offer clues to this miraculous event. According to the Bible, Jesus rose from the dead on the third day after his crucifixion. The Gospels tell us that when his followers came to the tomb, they found it empty, except for the linen cloths that had wrapped his body. In the Gospel of John 26:7, we read, "Then Simon Peter came along behind him and went straight into the tomb. He saw the strips of linen lying there, as well as the cloth that had been wrapped around Jesus' head." This passage suggests that the burial cloths, including the linen that wrapped Jesus, were left behind in the tomb after the resurrection. This detail is significant because it raises the question, could the Shroud of Turin be one of these linen cloths? Some believe that the image on the shroud was formed by the supernatural event of the resurrection itself. The idea is that some kind of radiant energy or light left an imprint of Jesus' body on the cloth at the moment he rose from the dead. This is, of course, a matter of faith, but it's an interesting thought. The shroud has become a symbol for many Christians of the resurrection, and the fact that it has an unexplained image on it only adds to the mystery. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell so you never miss out on our next deep dive into history, faith, and ancient mysteries.